Have you ever printed something and watched the color completely change from what you had originally designed? Or have you ever wondered why some printers charge way more for certain colors? You're about to find out why and how to actually control what gets printed. Hey there, I'm Mark Ducote, and I worked for 15 years in the design department of a commercial printer before starting my own design studio. And today, I'm going to share a printing process 101, if you will. Now, some of the most frequent questions I've received over the years while doing my Resourceful Designer podcast are from designers asking about the printing process. Specifically, what's the deal with Pantone colors, spot colors, and why some jobs cost way more than others? And today, I'm breaking down what you need to know about printing so that you can confidently talk to printers and actually get the colors your clients want. So let's start with the first question I get. Do I need a Pantone color book? Now, technically, no. You can manage without one. But realistically, if you design for print, then yes, you should have something to show how the printed color will look. Now, you may be wondering why Pantone color books are still important ever since Adobe removed the native Pantone support from its software. And the truth is, Adobe's removing the software support doesn't change how printers work or what your clients need to see. And a physical Pantone book does something that no software can replicate. It shows you exactly what a color will look like when it comes off the press. When you're working with a client who needs a specific color, especially for a logo or for branding work, a Pantone book lets you both look at actual printed samples side by side and agree on exactly what color you're ordering. Adobe's software decision doesn't change the fact that spot colors print more accurately than 4-color process. And clients still care about getting the color that they approved. Now, I own 3 Pantone books. The first is the Pantone Coded and Uncoded Formula Guide, which shows you the printed colors on coded paper and at the back of the book on uncoded stock. Now, the second one is the Color Bridge, and this one is the Pantone to CMYK conversion book. And this one is a real game changer because it shows you side by side what the color looks like as a spot color and as the CMYK equivalent. Now, I also have a Pantone CMYK Coded Plus series book, but since the first 2 do everything I need, I rarely use this third one. Now, here's the reality. When you're looking at colors on your computer screen, they're not the same as what you'll see in print. Your monitor uses RGB light to represent the colors, and a printed Pantone color is physical ink. There's no way that you can possibly calibrate your monitor well enough to perfectly match it. And I don't care how expensive your display is or your calibration tools. There is no way for it to be 100% accurate. So when you're working with a client and they want a very specific color for their print project, you've only got 2 options. Guess wrong or show them an actual printed sample. Now, I've had clients ask for, I want a mauve color. Do you know how many colors fall into that category? Mauve, plum, eggplant, purple, violet. They're all different. And I could tell you that after more than 3 decades in this industry, I still can't confidently define what mauve looks like. But if you open up a Pantone book, suddenly the client can point and say, that's the one, that's the color I want. Now I've got the exact Pantone number that the client wants, and I know exactly what the printer will deliver. And that's worth the investment right there. Now here's another reason to own a Pantone book. When you're designing logos or working on color combinations, you need to see how colors actually look next to each other. Now, blue and green together used to be considered a design crime. The saying was, blue and green should never be seen except for in the washing machine. But that changed over the last few decades. And now, blue and green are seen everywhere together. The problem is, not all blues and not all greens look good together. So if you're flipping through a Pantone book, you can take a blue and then a green, and you can hold them side by side and actually see, if they actually work. Your computer screen will lie to you. Sometimes it'll look good on your computer. A Pantone book won't lie. Now, what if you can't afford one of these books right now? Because they're not cheap. You can pay several hundreds of dollars for a full set. Now, I know when I worked at the print shop, we had designers come in all the time who couldn't afford their own Pantone books or just didn't want to buy them. And we kept one at the front counter or under the front counter, and they would come in, they would flip through it, write down whatever color numbers they needed, go back, work on their projects, and then they would send us the jobs matching those colors. Now, some print shops will even let you check one out, kind of like a library book. Call your local printer and ask them. The worst they can say is no. Now, with all that said, if you don't want to invest in Pantone books, but you still want to be able to show your clients something physical, a more economical option is swatchos. For under 40 pounds, which is around $53 US, they come in this little deck of 130 cards. Now, they're all individual cards, and the front of each card is a solid color, and at the bottom it lists the CMYK formula and for the color and the hex number of the equivalent online cover. And then on the reverse, it shows 3 lighter versions of that front color and 3 darker variations, all with their codes. Now, swatchos are made so that you can mix them up, enjoy them, and play with them. And although they're not as expansive color-wise as a Pantone book, they don't have as many colors in them, I find myself reaching for these, my swatchos, more often than I do for these other 3 Pantone books. Now, Swatchos also has a free downloadable Adobe swatch file, which makes it very easy for you to find a color that you want in your swatchos and assign the appropriate color in Illustrator, Photoshop, or any of the other Adobe CC software. Now, I'll include a link to in the description below for these swatchos, where the website where you can get your own deck. I love mine. Now, one more thing about Pantone, they do say you're supposed to replace your books every year or two, and honestly, I don't know anyone who actually does that. My books are probably, 12, 13 years old. And the key is just keep them in a dark place, maybe in a drawer, in a cabinet, somewhere out of the light, out of the sunlight. So as long as you protect them, they'll stay accurate enough for most work. It all depends. Some cases you may need a brand new book. And of course, they add new colors all the time. So new books have the new colors. My book is probably missing a few hundred colors, but for what it's worth, I can get by with my books even though they're over a decade old. Okay, now let's talk about another printing question that I often get asked. What's the difference between spot color and 4-color process? Now, spot color is simple. If you want, say, green, the printer literally has a can of green ink, or they mix the specific colors needed to create that green, again, according to Pantone's formula. Every Pantone color has an exact formula so that they can mix the inks to match that specific color. Now, the printer mixes it up, it puts that now new green ink on the printing press, and it prints solid green ink. And that green ink stays green. Print 1 card, print 1,000 cards, print 10,000 cards. The green is identical every single time. Now, 4-color process, which is also called CMYK or full color process, they're all interchangeable. Now, this is different. You're only using 4 colors, hence the name, which are cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And different combinations of these 4 colors can produce almost, and I repeat, almost any color you need. If you need a green, you're mixing cyan and yellow at different percentages. Maybe it's 40% cyan and 20% yellow. Maybe it's 40% cyan and 22% yellow. It depends on the shade and the tint of the green that you want. Now, here's where it kind of gets tricky. Each of the 4 colors is on its own printing head on the printing press. So as a sheet goes through a printing press, it will deposit the cyan ink, then the yellow ink, then the magenta, and the black, or whatever order that they're in. And well, it's kind of similar to like your desktop printer that you have that has 4 ink cartridges, but it's on a much larger scale, obviously. And as the printing press runs, the ink gets used up and gets replenished. So in a certain case where maybe that green was made up of 40% cyan and 22% yellow, that yellow may drift slightly. And after a while, it may drop down to 21% or even 20%, or it may go up and go to 23 or 24%. Now, on a small print run, you probably won't notice any color shift. But if you're printing, say, 10,000 sheets of paper, pull out the first sheet, pull out the 2,000th sheet, and pull out the 5,000th sheet, put them all next to each other, and there's a real chance that you'll see a slight color variation amongst them. Now, it's very small, but it is there. And when you're mixing the 4 colors, the cyan, the magenta, the yellow, the black, if you have a small variation in more than one of them, that can really offset the colors. Now, modern presses are much better at this than they used to be. Some of the newer equipment can adjust to micro percentages to keep colors consistent. But not every printer has those state-of-the-art machines. Here's where the technical part that actually matters for all of this. I just told you how you get different colors by mixing cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Now, unlike spot colors, where I said earlier, if you want green, you mix yellow and blue ink until you end up with green ink. With 4-color process or full color process, or CMYK, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't actually mix the inks. Instead, it uses something called halftone dots. If you've never heard of this, imagine your image is made up of thousands and thousands of tiny dots in a grid. The bigger and closer the dots are together, the darker the color. The smaller and wider apart the spaces between them, the lighter the color. So if you want a green, the printer actually prints cyan dots at a specific size, depending on the percentage you want. And then, it has the white space between them, and then the blue dot, the cyan dot. And then it prints the yellow on top of it. But it's not directly on top. The halftone puts the yellow at a slightly different angle. So the dots don't overlap each other perfectly. So you're not getting cyan or yellow directly on top of cyan. It's offset a little bit. So you get a little bit of cyan and a little bit of yellow. Now, if you magnify it, you take a loupe or a magnifying glass and you look at a printed piece, you will see the blue and the yellow dots along with the magenta and the black. But if you look at just those blue and yellow dots, you will notice that they are 2 distinct colors. However, when you view it at a normal distance meant to view the printed piece, your eye blends those 2 colors together to perceive a green. Go ahead, take a magnifying glass to a magazine, a newspaper, a postcard, anything that was printed on a traditional printing press, and you will see those dots. That's how printing works. That's halftoning. That is how traditional printing for hundreds of years has created the illusion of unlimited colors using just 4 inks. So those are the basics between spot color and 4-color process, but which should you use? Now, you try to use spot colors for logos. If you're designing a 1, 2, or 3-color logo, which was the norm for ages, now a lot of 4-color logos are coming about, and that kind of throws this theory for a loop. But traditionally, logos were done as 1, 2, or 3 colors. You want spot colors for those because the colors will be cleaner, they'll be more accurate, and the logo will look more professional when printed. 4-color process is used for photographs or complex images with lots of different colors or gradations or shifts between colors. You can't do halftone dots with spot colors the same way that you do with 4-color. Yes, you can use halftones for spot colors, but that's a whole other conversation. But traditionally, you want solid colors for logos and that sort of thing, so spot colors is the way to go. But if you've got photos, 4 colors is your only real option. Now, the last question I'm about to tackle is about whether it's affordable to print in more than 4 colors. And the simple answer is, the more colors you add, the more expensive the print job becomes. And here's why. Every color you add to a printing press is another setup, it's more ink, it's more printing plates, it's more time. Four-color process is the sweet spot because you can create almost any color under the rainbow with just those four inks. But there is a catch. Some colors are literally impossible to match perfectly using the four-color process. Oranges are a classic example. You cannot mix cyan, magenta, yellow, and black in any possible combination to get a true, vibrant orange. It's outside the color gamut, is what they call it. You'll get close, but you'll never get a perfectly true, brilliant orange. Now, if your client absolutely needs that perfect orange, or if they're ordering a logo in 3 spot colors or something like that, you're looking at more expense because the quality goes up drastically if you add spot color to the job. So in this case, you may print a 4-color job and add a 5th color just to do the orange. Now, I've done jobs with 5, 6, I even did one job with 7 spot colors because the client needed that much quality. It was expensive, but the finished product looked premium and the client was extremely happy. Now, there is a hybrid approach. You can also print 4 colors plus additional spot colors, as I said. I've done jobs where we ran 4-color process for a photo or a complex graphic, and then we added something, sometimes like a silver or a gold ink, something metallic as a 5th color. Now that gives you the best of both worlds. The color range of 4-color process plus the impact of a true spot color. By the way, metallic inks like silver or gold have to be printed as a spot color. There's absolutely no way to print them as 4-color process. And I know there's also foil. It's a different method that can give you a really nice silver or gold, but that's a whole other process that I'm not covering today. So here's what I want you to take away from this. First, if you're doing any sort of printed work, get yourself a Pantone book, or at least a deck of swatchos. It ensures that you can get as close as possible and that you have something to show your client. Here's the exact color we'll have. Now, the second thing is I want you to understand the difference between spot and 4-color before you actually pitch a job to a client. When someone wants to print something, you'll be able to accurately explain why certain colors cost more and maybe why a logo should be a spot color rather than CMYK. Now, sometimes in some instances, it may cost more. I had a client who paid extra because they specifically wanted their business cards printed in spot color. Even though we could have easily done them as CMYK, they wanted that premium look, so they paid extra for it. The third thing to remember, don't leave your Pantone books on your desk where the sun or air can get to them. Keep them in a dark drawer. They'll last much longer that way. If you understand printing, you can offer real value to your clients. That goes beyond just making them look good. You can save them money, you can make sure they get exactly what they want color-wise, and you can make a profit on it too. Now, if you've got specific questions about printing or how it applies to your design business, please drop them in the comments. I read every single one, and who knows, I might answer your question in a future video. And here's something else I've learned over the decades. Print brokering can be incredibly profitable for your design business. I'm not just a graphic designer. I also help clients navigate the printing process, and I broker these jobs. Last year alone, I made over $6,000 in print brokering on top of my design work. Please check out this video I'll link to over here that I made on print brokering to supplement your design income. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my videos. I cover everything from client management to marketing strategies, stuff that actually works for design businesses. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay creative.